All right, you guys, we have Richie Lale, the Gecko King, and he has opened this really cool Gecko Gallery, NYC, which has some of the most endangered and rare geckos that you're going to see in the world, and is the only gallery of its type in NYC.
Yep. So I'm the co-founder of the Gecko Gallery. My company name is the Gecko King Inc. We work with right around 80 different gecko species, a bunch of different skink species and Agamid species. And in the gallery, that's our forefront is education and making sure that we're able to spread the awareness of conservation, spread the awareness of different species, really help the community interact with a lot of species they might not normally see in the wild. I'll start with some fun stuff. Here's some monkey tail skinks. These guys are sweet. So we're super into diversity and super into having different species that most people don't see all too often. So here's a nice big male. He's captive born. He's about 3.5 years old, and he just drank some water.
He's well hydrated.
Yeah, he's well hydrated. Sorry. So he was produced by the San Francisco Zoo. So he's a zoo-born animal. He's pretty sweet. He'll be one of our ambassadors here, talking about how important it is to conserve certain species. As most people know, with monkey tails, they're super long-lived and somewhat of an endangered species because they take such a long time to mature, and then they only have 1 to 2 live pups a year.
Wow. So these are live birthers.
Yeah, so they're live birthers, 1 to 2 pups a year. They take probably about 3 to 4 years to fully mature, probably even more than that, about 5 years to mature. And there's beautiful slow-moving animals, beautiful prehensile tail. They come from the Solomon Islands, and yeah, they're amazing species.
Yeah, they really are. And that prehensile tail is used for climbing, right?
Yep.
For those who don't know.
Yep, they live high up in the canopy. They are primarily herbivorous, so they mostly eat pothos, actually. But they eat some kale, some collard greens, and things like that. You hungry? Yeah, they're sweet. His girlfriend's right down there. And she's actually a wild-caught long-term captive female. So she's been in captivity for about 2.5 years now. So she's a little rough because she went through that whole exportation process, and he's perfect. He has all toes and all his scales intact. He's an amazing animal.
Yeah, the wild can be rough.
Yeah, definitely. So then, aside from skinks, which is kind of more of like a passion project, we have a ton of different gecko species. We do a ton of Europlatus here. Me and the co-founder Joe Migarov, part of the Gecko Gambit. He's amazing. Definitely look him up on Instagram. He specializes in a lot of different Europlatus species. So here's a joint project between us. These are Europlatus ebinaui. Come here. This is a little female. She's an adult. She probably just laid some eggs recently. They're one of the smallest species of Europlatus, if not the smallest species of Europlatus. It's an amazing animal.
So cool.
Check out those eyes.
Yeah, they are awesome.
Yeah. So part of the Gecko Gallery, we're also talking about a lot about like conservation and how important it is to not overlook a lot of species that we kind of like consider throwaway species in a way because they just come in so commonly imported. Europlatus in particular, they're very finicky. They're very specific to their range and very specific to their temperature gradients and humidities, and they need a lot of care. So we make sure that we are able to keep them in captivity as happy as possible. These are all captive-born animals here. Aside from the ebinaui, we have some Fantasticus over here. Here's a female sleeping on the glass. There we go. It's a beautiful animal.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, so they're a dead leaf mimic, and that tail is supposed to replicate a dead leaf. And they have all the bug bites and the veining that a dead leaf would have, and they kind of just sit there until nightfall, and they just reanimate, start hunting, start looking for mates and stuff like that. They're an amazing species. This is also a captive-born female. Europlatus fantasticus.
They do a very good job of mimicking.
Oh yeah, They're fantastic. No pun intended. Then here we have some Euryplatus fimbriatus. They are one of the largest species. Here's a nice big male. These are also captive born.
It's crazy how they flatten out on the glass like that.
Yeah, so they have these frills to essentially hide their shadow when they're laying flat on bark, so that you can't see them. They're amazing. Their eyes are insane. Look like
Oh,
little dinosaurs.
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Designer eyes right there.
Yeah.
That is cool.
They're fun. Super fun.
That's awesome.
And then we have a female back here. And her patterning is some of the best that I've seen in Euryplatus fimbriatus. Amazing, mossy.
Yeah,
mossy
this one looks way more
lichen.
mossy.
Yeah.
I can't get over those eyes. That is so cool.
Mm-hmm. They're some of the best some of the best animals. They're just so cool.
Yeah, these are beautiful.
Yeah, so we're hoping to establish a good breeding population with these guys. Not many people are successfully producing them, so it's very important that we do so. A lot of these Euryplatus come from very fragmented forests in Madagascar, and if a natural disaster were to happen, a wildfire, deforestation at a rapid rate, anything like that, human encroachment, farming, anything like that, most of these species will not be around within the next decade or so. So it's very important to make sure we keep these species in captivity, to make sure that we have a sustainable, good, diverse population to keep them for generations to come.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
To continue the Euryplatus train, we have some captive-born Seymeti here.
All right.
Euryplatus Seymeti. These are called the super mossy leaf-tailed geckos. And they look very similar in structure to fimbriatus. They are just much smaller, but packed full of color.
They really are.
They're
That perfect camo.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I love all the setups you have going on right here.
Thank you. Here are Euryplatus henkeli.
Look at this one on the
Henkel's
glass.
leaf-tailed gecko, and when they're mad, they bulge out their eyes and bulge out their frills to make it look like they're like much bigger than they are.
Really?
Yeah, they're an amazing animal. These are all captive born. These are the gecko gambits, Euryplatus. They're fantastic animals.
It's crazy how they flatten their whole body like that.
Yep.
I mean, I see why it works well in the wild.
Yep. And then they open their mouth and that frill comes out, and they're just insane. And there are two more sleeping right there, and a male and a female.
Wow, that's crazy. That's super cool. I like how they vary in color too.
Yep. Yeah, so females can have the pied trait, where they have a lot of white splotching and a white collar along their neck and along their dorsal, and then the males are mostly kind of like a tannish browns.
That's cool. The reptile community loves everything pied.
Yep. The more white, the better, it seems.
Yeah, sometimes. I kind of like a nice mix, but you're right. A lot of people seem to like that.
Yeah. Then I'll show you one more Euryplatus, probably a Euryplatus that you might not find in many other people's collections, if I'm able to spot them. These are Euryplatus pitchmani, the cork-bark mimic leaf-tailed geckos.
Okay.
And they are extremely good at hiding. Here we go. And there are two right here.
Oh my God, that's
See
crazy.
that?
I'm proud of myself that I saw it right before it moved.
Yeah.
I bet the camera people probably didn't see that. Comment if you guys saw that before it moved. That is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so they blend in perfectly with their environment. They're species that they're really not readily available in captivity, so we're hoping to establish them better in captivity. They're super. They're kind of like the pinnacle of the Euryplatus genus.
Yeah, these are super cool. Where are these guys native to?
also Madagascar. Everything from the genus Europlatus are all endemic to Madagascar.
Wow, so these are definitely super rare.
So these are my personal favorites. These are Nemaspis psychedelica, or the psychedelic rock lizard. These were discovered in 2010. These are animals that were produced by the San Antonio Zoo, and they are some of the rare species in the wild. There's approximately anywhere between 400 to 700 left in the wild. They come from a very, very small island. And the problem with that island is that now they're blasting the rocks, because they're only from one. They mainly inhabit rock cliffs and rock faces. So if they're blasting those rock faces and they kill that environment, then they no longer have that foothold to be able to reproduce and stay safe. So you can see them right over here. This one's fired up, but when they fire down, they have a amazing purple body, orange tail, yellow underbelly, and these crazy golden flakes along their face and neck.
Wow, they are really beautiful.
Yeah, so that coloration is why they call them the psychedelic rock gecko, and
That's cool.
They're also on CITES, so nothing can come in or come out of the country.
What does CITES do?
So CITES limits the amount of animals, or completely doesn't allow certain species to come in or come out of either their home country or other countries for international trade. So CITES is the Convention for International Endangered Species. And so if they're on CITES 1, they can't come in or come out with very specific paperwork. Other CITES allow certain quotas to come in and come out of the country. Here's another psychedelic rock lizard over here, rock gecko. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah. This one's actually on a rock.
Yep.
There we go. That is super cool. The neck is really cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I love them. They're like little acrobats during the day when you give them some crickets. They're like bouncing off the walls.
That's awesome. I bet it's really cool to watch them hunt.
Yeah, they're fun. So
That's
here's
awesome.
a pair, and there's a pair that I'm raising up some babies also.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're one of the main species that we're really trying to keep and breed and hope for a good population in captivity.
Yeah, so more than educate, you're literally preserving these species yourself.
That's the hope. That's definitely the hope.
That's very cool.
Then here's more of a common species. This is Anolis equestris podior, or the blue beauty anole.
These I've heard of, but I've never seen one in person, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, they have amazing blues and yellows. There's a pair in there.
I see they vary a bit too.
They do, yeah. Yeah, so there is some dimorphism with the species. The males are a lot more striking. They have a lot more yellows to them, a lot more blues. The females are a little bit more less in coloration, but they have a lot going on to them. They're a nice, large species.
Gotta attract the mate.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, they're fun.
That's awesome.
They're really fun. And here's a non-gecko species. These are Calotes pethiogodi, or the Sri Lankan agamid. These guys are also dimorphic and super, super fun super personable. That's a male. Amazing sexual dimorphism. The males have a lot of blue to them. Really nice banding. They're fun.
They look like a mini iguana.
Yeah. They get nice size too. Similar to a small iguana species. Even
Oh, that's awesome. That's even cooler.
Yeah. And then the females here show off some nice dimorphism.
Wow. That's cool. So yeah, the male much brighter.
Yeah, they're fun. They're super personable. They tongue feed. They're a species that will definitely get a very strong hold in captivity, because they're so easy to produce, but they're still somewhat new to captivity. They're very fun.
People are gonna love how these look.
Yeah,
they haven't seen them before.
Yeah. They are.
I love how they jump around too. That is so cool.
Yeah, the male sometimes likes to hang out on my head. If I take him out, he just kind of like hangs out and just jumps around. They're fun. So Shinosaurus crocodilurus, or the Chinese crocodile lizard. These guys are in here. They're a semi-aquatic species. They have a very, very limited range between China and Vietnam. There's also estimated to be about 200 to 300 left in Vietnam, and about less than somewhere around 500, 700 in China.
Wow.
So we have tons of tannins in the water to make them feel comfortable. They eat the shrimp and the snails in there. Here's one right here with bit of floater on his head, which is kind of funny.
Wow. Got a hat. That's very cool. This setup is amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's cool. So you said they literally eat the fish and the shrimp that are in the bottom.
Yep. They eat shrimp, they eat fish, they'll tongue feed superworms, earthworms, things like that. Super varied diet. They're an amazing species. They call them crocodile lizards because they have a very, very similar scale structure to most crocodilians. And then just the way they swim is very, very similar to crocodilians also.
That's super cool. And yeah, I mean, who wouldn't love to set this up with some climbing features?
Right.
And then literally you have the whole underwater, fish tank basically at the bottom right here.
Whole
That's
ecosystem
super
in
cool.
there.
That's awesome.
Here's another one right over here hanging out. They're fun.
Yeah, that's a really good look at one too. That's super cool.
Yeah, so these are captive born by a buddy that's local to me. They're not a species that's very common in captivity. They're also a species that's even less common in the wild. So we're really hoping to produce them eventually within the next coming years.
Yeah, for sure. They should be more common in captivity because, I mean, this type of setup, this is super cool.
Right, yeah, you have best of both worlds. You could do multiple species in this, and they do very well. They do get rather large, about 1.5 feet or so.
Really?
Yeah.
That's super cool too, though, actually. That's awesome. If you guys like building cages and you want a project, this is your thing right here.
Yeah, they're fun.
That's cool.
They're super fun. I'll take this one out. Check him out. This one has a lot of really nice reds to him. Hey, buddy. With your little hat.
He kind of kept the hat. He walked right up on your hand, too. That's awesome. I see what you're saying about the, crocodile-like scales.
Yeah. So if you look at the tail, that scutage is so similar to crocodilians.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. They are some of the most unique animals. Are the only species in the genus, the monotypic genus, and they're just amazing. They're amazing. The more they grow, the more red they get on the sides and the laterals.
That is so cool.
Yeah, they're fun. There you go. He swims away.
They're
awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah, and I'll show you some species that I brought out for you guys. Let's see. So here are some. We do a lot of Philsuma species. We only did a select few Philsuma species in the gallery itself. But I work with right around, I'd say, 10 to 11 different Philsuma. And here's one of my favorites. These are Philsuma clemeri. They're a communal species. The male just ran away, but here's one of the females. They're called electric blue, neon blue day geckos.
These are beautiful.
Yeah. I always get the common names confused.
So how many can you have in one community?
So in here is a 1.4, so 1 male and 4 females.
Do you limit the amount of males because they'll have aggression?
Yeah, it's better to have one male dominate his territory, and then each bamboo pole, since they specialize in bamboo forests in Madagascar, that each female has her own territory in that cage, and then they produce little babies like that.
That is awesome. That is super cool.
Yeah, and on occasion we'll just find babies running around scurrying in there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So are they live birth?
No, they lay eggs. They lay eggs in they deposit the eggs in the bamboo tubes, and then when they hatch, the babies kind of start coming out. They're the moms and the father are all good with the babies, so they are similar to tokays where they won't rear the babies, but they'll kind of ignore them.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're awesome. Even babies have like very very chilled demeanor and disposition.
That's cool. They can just be born and thrive right in the environment.
Yep. So I'll show you 2 Australian species, 2 Australian leaf-tailed species, and I'll show you a bunch of other Australian species also. So here's one of the smaller Saltaria species. This is Saltarius cadiae. Bit of a jumper, but they're amazing.
Wow. It's crazy. These leaf tails are crazy.
Yeah, so these actually don't mimic leaves. They mimic stone faces. So most of them live on granite outcrops in Australia. And as a defense mechanism, they have these super modified tails to kind of wedge themselves into rock crevices to kind of deter predators from eating them.
Wow. So the tail is like their shield.
Yep, essentially.
That's cool.
Yeah. They're amazing.
They are absolutely beautiful.
Then I'll show you a larger species of the genus.
Okay.
That's a good shot.
These guys flatten out too?
They can, yeah. So here's a larger species of the genus. This is Salterius celebrosus. They are they're what I believe to be the second largest of the genus. They are immaculate.
That's so cool. It's like a walking stick. I mean, that is super cool.
Yeah, similar to like a phasmid, where they have like these super lanky legs and stuff. They're so cool. They're so fun.
I like how slow and measured it's moving too. It's actually super cool. Methodical. That is awesome.
Yeah. And if you touch them, they're super rough to their exterior.
They really are. Yeah. That's cool. I mean, you could literally probably touch that on a tree and not know it wasn't part of the tree.
100%.
That's really cool. That is beautiful.
Yeah, I love that like big shield of tail. They're so cool. When they're hunting, they kind of wave their tails around. Also, they're insane.
Is it like to lure something, or is it just to help them move?
Not necessarily to help them move. It's also not a lure. I would say it's more so just kind of like their behavioral mechanisms.
Like a dog wagging its tail?
In a way. Yeah, there are a lot of gecko species that do that, where they kind of like wag their tail as they hunt.
Yeah, and then pounce on the food.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, they're awesome. And then to keep the Australian species going, I'll show you some velvet geckos. So here are 4 individuals of 2 different species that we work with here. This is a juvenile Odura fimbria, or the Australian velvet gecko. They have amazing patterning to them. The banding, the marblage, they're so cool.
They are really cool, yeah. Absolutely. Whoa, so they're like arboreal too, right?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, so also with most Australian species, they are also like a rocky outcrop type species. They'll live on stone faces, out in the desert. Look at those like eyes; they're insane.
They are.
They're fun.
That is super cool.
Yeah. So most of these species aren't commonly kept in captivity here in the U.S. So I'm happy to have a nice sizable group and work on establishing them better.
I've literally haven't seen a single species that you've showed me in person before so far. So
gonna jump.
Not common might be an understatement.
There he goes.
That's super cool.
Yeah, they're fun.
That's awesome.
Then I'll show you an adult fimbria. No, stay inside. Show you an adult fimbria, and I'll show you how the pattern changes quite a bit. So this is a subadult female, and they kind of start to lose a lot of that striping, and then start to get more of that muddled marble look to them.
Yeah, the chaos of the pattern's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it almost looks like some Aborigine writing or something on the back. It's really
almost
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Australian to the T.
Yeah. I love Australian species, but I love everything. You know, I get one genus, and then I start to collect as many species as I can in captivity, and then I move on to the next genus. So with Odura, I have probably about five different Odura species that we're working with here. And the last Odura species I'll show you are Odura castellanaui. So there are 2 different types here. This is an amelanistic type. Not many people have these in the US. This is a subadult female. Amelanistic is the opposite of melanistic. So it's a recessive gene that mutes or blocks a lot of the melanin that is created. So here's a normal wild type. You can see that difference is insane.
I mean, it really did block a lot of melanin. That's super cool.
Yeah.
And then the pattern is still here. It's just under all that melanin.
Yeah.
So it's like when you remove the melanin, that pattern just pops out.
Yeah. Well, it's also that this animal is a younger animal. This is an older animal, so they do start to lose a lot of the striping and patterning. When they hatch, they do have quite a bit of orange, but they do dull out and darken up as they age. But the difference between the two, within the same species, is insane.
It's wild, yeah.
So my all-time favorite genus, and a genus that I mostly specialize in, is Goniosaurus. So I brought out the some of the nicest of the genus. This is Goniosaurus orientalis, or the Japanese cave gecko, and they are just insane. They have beautiful red eyes. Has beautiful orange banding. They're a species that is a very hot commodity in captivity. A lot of people love them. I have a sizable group of them. I also have a sizable group of other Goniosaurus species: Hyanensis, Bowelenensis, Cabayensis, Lui, Goniosaurus, I already said Cabayensis. I used to have some Huluensis, but not anymore, unfortunately. And then have some Yamashine, Splendens, and a bunch of Orientals. So you another rare species, and then we'll get into some more common stuff. These are Brazilian galliwasps. Not many people have these in captivity. Oh yeah. So this is a pair in here. This is a gravid female.
These are crazy looking.
Yeah, so they're almost exclusively fossorial, meaning that they only live under the earth mostly.
They look like a big worm.
Yeah. They're not a skink. So galliwasps are within their own complex, and they are just super unique, very skink-like, but taxonomically they're not a skink. And then they have this insane red belly.
Wow. That's cool. The tail's super cool too.
Yeah.
So, question: if they're fossorial, why do they need such a long tail?
It's probably just to help them rut around in the soil.
Like a boat rudder, just turns them.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, there are tons of fossorial species that actually have very elongated tails. Even like snake species that, like the blind snake and stuff like that. They have a nice long body. The main morphological feature that they have is that they have these little legs, because they essentially don't really use them all too much. As they're swimming through the soil, they kind of lost the need to have long and strong legs versus having a nice long and strong core body to them. And then like the difference between a fossorial species with smaller legs and limbs versus an arboreal species with such longer claws and longer legs and more muscle to them is interesting to see.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Then I'll show you some species that I love working with. I'm sure you've seen a ton of these already, but these are some Leachianus. I have about 300 Leachianus in my breeding facility. This is a line that I've been working on for quite a few generations now. This is called the strawberry line. They have a ton of nice saturated pinks to them. They're one of the species that I love working with. They make amazing pets. They're super easy to take care of. They're just nice big dinosaurs, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the pattern on this one is super cool.
The goal is to get as much pink as possible, but also leave some room for white. They're just amazing. I love them.
They really are. It's like a flower.
Here are some more leechies. Some more high color stuff that I love working with. So this is an animal that was produced by leaping leechies. This is an animal that I'm outcrossing into my strawberry projects because he has just the exact look that I'm looking for. Love his contrast and his coloration. His base pattern is awesome.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a mixture of pink and white.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're awesome. And their nails are gnarly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They'll have your skin looking dry with a bunch of cuts in it.
Oh, yeah.
Super cool. They're totally worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is considered a small locality also. So this is a pure nuana. There's some localities that get almost triple the size. He ranges right around, let's say, like about 130 grams or so. There are localities of Leachianus that can get upwards of 400.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is still a pretty big gecko.
Yeah, for a gecko, they're relatively large, but there are definitely some that can get much bigger.
Wow, very cool. Posing for us there.
Yeah. There's a female with some of her babies. You see her protecting the baby.
Absolutely. What is this morph called again?
So this is a candy button. This is actually just a normal female, but the father is a candy button. I'll get him out. So
Where are the babies?
The babies are 100% hets. The babies are right over here under her foot. See?
Oh, wow. She really is protecting them. That's super cool.
Yep. So they're a communal species, super familial. They'll the parents will raise the babies, will protect the eggs, guard the eggs. They're, in my opinion, one of the most intellectual species. They not only work off of instinct, but they definitely adapt to you and are able to modify their behavior based on how you keep them.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and I'll show you the candy button male. He is in here somewhere. He's a nice big aggressive dude. There he is. So he's in here.
He is huge.
Yeah, he's big. He has those nice dark eyes and candy button features.
Wow, he is cool.
Yeah.
So, for those who don't know, like myself, what is the candy button morph?
So the candy button morph is a recessive gene that it's a pattern gene. So it darkens the eyes, and then all of those red spots are very in unison that almost form like a dotted stripe laterally and dorsally, and they resemble the old the 1990s candy that used to be popular back then.
Got you.
So here's some skink species. Here are some pink tongues. We have 2 breeding colonies of these guys. They're a live birthing species. She's very likely gravid or pregnant right now. She's so chunky. So they're an Australian species, similar to blue tongues, but just smaller, communal, and arboreal. So they are personally one of my favorite skinks. They make some of the best pets. They specialize in snails, but they'll eat cat food, super worms, bunch of different things. They're a really, really interesting species.
Not picky.
No.
I mean, you don't see many arboreal skinks, right?
Yeah. There are definitely a few, like the emerald tree skinks, which we also have. And there's some Lamprepelta, different Lamprepelta species, different ammonia species, tons of different things, mostly Malaysian and from Papua New Guinea. But
I guess they're kind of cooler to watch anything that's arboreal because it's like climbing around.
Yeah, very active. They're a species that as soon as you miss them, they are out hunting because that stimulates their natural prey drive for snails.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it's wet outside, the snails will come out, so that makes them want to hunt.
Exactly.
That's very cool.
Exactly. So I'll pull out a snail and see if they want to feed on one.
Absolutely.
So that's part about. I can breed snails pretty readily, and always have a good constant supply of captive-born snails.
That's cool. That is cool.
So they have these specialized teeth that help crush the snail. Then they'll spit out the shell and then eat the meat of the snail.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Enrichment for them, pure enrichment for the snail.
That's right.
There he goes.
A crunch. That's cool. That's really cool. It almost like took it out of the shell. Do they always do that?
Yeah. They're specialized snail eaters, so
They leave the shell?
Yeah, they crush the shell, leave the shell. They'll probably eat some of the shell for calcium, but then they'll eat most of the meat in the shell, and they have those specialized teeth just for that.
That's super
Yeah,
cool.
it's probably the best diet for them as far as enrichment goes, and as far as their most native meal that they would eat. They are obligate snail eaters. So most people who keep them in captivity either get some apple snails from like Asian markets, or they try to breed their own. I never recommend getting any wild caught snails because they can just carry a lot of different parasites and diseases, pesticides, things like that. So always breed your snails for at least a generation or two to be able to mitigate any problems that they might have in the future.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And the good part about having a good stable snail population going is that a lot of different species will eat snails during breeding season for the extra calcium, including Europlatus, Cerdodactylus, which we have a good sized group of going, and even tokays will take some snails.
Really?
Yep. It's not a common food for most people, but they're a vital role in a lot of breeding populations.
That's very cool.
Yep. I love that crunch.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's cool to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. So now he ate all the meat and then he's spitting out the shell.
Oh, that's super cool. That was pretty quick work he did too.
Yeah.
Definitely specialized. That's awesome.
Definitely. We do have some chameleon species. Here is a male subadult carpet chameleon, Fusifer lateralis. He's currently shedding, but they're super fun. I can help that. And then as he gets more pissed off with me handling him, you're going to see his color change completely.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're a smaller species. They get right around like a little bit bigger than this.
So a lot of people think that this is a common misconception that people think chameleons' color changes because of their background, right? It changes with mood.
Yes. So every species has their own base coloration, and then based on their mood, they'll either darken up, lighten up. Breeding reception, they'll either start displaying the males and females different colorations to show that they're in the mood or not. In this species, when they are not in the mood to breed, the females will go black based with a bunch of blue specks all across their body, blue and yellow speckles, and that's where they got their name, because they look like a Persian carpet.
Okay.
Yeah, they're a super fun species.
For a breeder, that's pretty cool. You can look at the color and then decide when to pair them.
Yep. That's the fun intricacies of different species. You kind of have to adapt to different things, because keeping over 80 species, there's so much to know and so much to get into. And then as you work with them, you start to discover more and more about them.
That's awesome.
And he's starting to darken up just a little bit now.
I see him. He is.
Yeah. They're fun.
He's getting grumpy.
We also have another leaf-tail species in here. This is another Australian leaf-tail, Phalaris aminicola. This is a female with a regenerated tail, so it's not as spiked, but they're still beautiful nonetheless.
I mean, that's the nicest regenerated tail that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's cool. I see what you're saying about the texture, but it's crazy how it regenerates all that pattern stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Guess that's essential to their survival in the wild.
Yeah, definitely. They're awesome. Yeah, so not only do we work with the Madagascan leaf-tail species, so we have a lot of different Australian species. We're all about diversity, so being able to portray, educate, and breed certain species in captivity is always an honor, especially with the amount of diversity geckos have.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I love their toes.
Yeah, their toes are cool.
Day gecko. They are normally very flighty, but I've been able to tame this one down to be able to handle him with slow movements.
You said Phalaris grandis.
Phalaris grandis, yep.
That's cool. This one looks like he's ready to sell me some car insurance.
Yeah.
Very cool. These guys are so underrated.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're one of the most popular species, but I love them just because they're so striking. They make great display animals.
Yeah, they really do.
So the Gecko Gallery is located at at 255 McKibbett Street, and we are excited to collaborate with the Bone Museum to show the differences in biology and sciences between herpetology and osteology and the history behind both.
Hi everyone, my name is John Ferry. I'm the current managing director of the Bone Museum here in Brooklyn, New York. We are one of the largest public displays of osteology in the East Coast, primarily specializing in human remains. And with the Gecko Gallery opening up next door, we thought this would be such an amazing opportunity to get people involved, both in the study and appreciation of reptiles and geckos, as well as human bones. Really exploring that intersection between bones and reptile anatomy is so amazing to us. And since both the gallery and the museum are adjoining to each other within the lofts, we thought this would be an amazing opportunity to partner to really get people involved in just broader education around the science.
So what do we have here? We have all types of bones or just human bones?
Yeah, so it's one of the largest collections. We have over 150 real human skulls, as well as around 16 real skeletons, but we have a rotating exhibit, so we always get new pieces in and out.
What's up with this one, like decorated one right here?
That's a real human skull that's been intricately carved by the artist H.R. Geiger. Through there, this was done through the pandemic in 2020, so it's interesting what people were doing with real human bones during the pandemic.
Oh, that's interesting. So this was recently done?
Yes.
That's very cool. I was wondering if it was like a tribal ritual or something like that.
Absolutely.
That's very cool.
So here at the Bone Museum, imagine people always ask, where do we get the bones from? So back in the day, if you were a medical student, it was mandatory for you to purchase your own skull or skeleton during your time in the medical field. Now fast forward 100 years later, we're all familiar with the concept of inheritance. A lot of these doctors are now passing away and their next of kin have no idea what to do with their bones. We just got a phone call last week. Hey, my grandfather just passed away. He was a physician. We were cleaning out his medical estate and we found a real human skull. So here at the museum, we're not backed by any governmental body or institution. We're fully self-supported off of general admission and gift shop sales. We purchased these bones back from the general public and have them on display at the museum. And now we boast one of the largest pathological, trauma, and anatomical based collections in the East Coast. So as you make your way around, it takes you through this medical history around sourcing, practicing institutions, and the broader history of the medical bone trade. But through there, we're really proud to announce that we'll be having a joint admission with the Gecko Gallery. So instead of the traditional $20 admission for the Bone Museum and $20 admission for the Gecko Gallery, we'll be offering a joint admission of $30, and you'll be able to see both spaces for that price. So that's something that we're really excited to be unveiling in the future.
2 for 1, very cool.
2 for 1.
Richie, well, thanks so much for having us. Is there anything else that people should know?
Of course, man. So I'm so happy you came by. I'm happy you were able to view some of our animals. We'll be open somewhere around mid-May, and I would love to share some of my knowledge and beautiful animals with you guys.
Yeah,
Definitely
you
stop by.
Yeah, for sure. You have a lot of knowledge. You have a lot of beautiful animals. The Gecko Gallery NYC, you guys, go ahead and check that out. Definitely come visit in person. It's beautiful.
Yep.
And Richie, the Gecko King, we're going to link all his stuff in the description.
Sweet.
Go ahead and follow all his stuff and check out all those links. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
you guys.
man. Appreciate you.